Welcome to another edition of the COLTS SQUAD SHOW. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, and I still can't quite believe that the Colts are undefeated.
And I'm Zach Hicks, and I'm just excited to see if Danny Dimes can make this a perfect September this Sunday.
I'm Jake Arthur, and the hunt for 4-0 is on now.
And I'm Alan Fink, a former player. Can the Colts stand the bright lights in LA?
Colts Nation, rise up. It's the Colts Squad. Everything Indianapolis Colts every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Circle City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to squad up. The Colts Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into another edition of the COLTS SQUAD SHOW, where they are indeed still undefeated here on the Locked On Colts Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm Derek Schultz, Indy Sports Talker, columnist for the IBJ. I'm joined by the legendary Notre Dame and Oilers running back Alan Pinkett, and you everydayers, of course, know Zach Hicks and Jake Arthur, the dynamic duo from Locked On Colts, your first listen every day. And the Colts pounded another overmatched opponent last Sunday as they were victorious in their road opener in Nashville. A bigger challenge awaits, however, in the form of the Rams as the Colts make their first of two cross-country trips. In fact, they'll make an out-of-country trip as well. Travel schedule is very difficult for this team this year as they head to California later this week. On tonight's show, we'll discuss if this offensive start for Indianapolis is sustainable. We'll play overreactions and underreactions from week 3 as we do every single week on the Wednesday Squad Show. The impact of Kenny Moore's injury and the defensive outlook just in general, an injury report that was a little bit dicey, which is the one that we saw for today for the first practice of the week. And then we'll take our first look at the Los Angeles Rams. But guys, let's start offensively here. And I went through and I tried to be as well-rounded as possible. But Zach, regardless of what you look at, whether you just look at like the traditional things, points, yards, right? Or even if you look at the metrics, DVOA, EPA, all that other stuff that us, the new age people kind of like to nerd out on, right? You can take traditional, you can take metrics, you can take whatever you want. I mean, this is a top-level NFL offense across the board through 3 weeks. Can they sustain that? Can this be a top 5 level NFL offense over the course of 17 games, barring given what you've seen so far this season?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring up those underlying metrics and those advanced stats and stuff, because those stats are important to tell us the truth behind those more generic numbers. You got points per game, you have yards per game and stuff like that, which are great. But those underlying metrics they talk about like what the success rate is, like how often you are getting into third and short and stuff like that. Yards per attempt is a big one too. That's not really an advanced stat, but yards per attempt for quarterbacks, how trainable it is, how long it's going to sustain. So those underlying metrics also say this Colts offense has been elite through 3 games. So when you have everything lining up, I think it tells you enough that this is pretty legit, this start for the Colts team. It's not some mirage. If they were putting up 30 points a game, but a lot of it was coming off their defense getting turnovers, for instance, and getting them into short fields, but the offense is still not moving the ball, then that can maybe say it's a mirage because turnovers are regressible. But with this Colts offense, they have a high success rate. They have high EPA per play. They have high every single thing underlying metrics say. So yeah, as long as they stay healthy, I do think it is sustainable to a degree. Like there are some aspects of it that will come back to earth a little bit. They lead the NFL in success rate by such a wide margin that you have to think it's going to come down a little bit. They have yet to turn the ball over, and I don't know if you can go 17 games without turning the ball over. I know the Bills are on like a 13-game streak right now, so maybe you can go a whole season without turning it over, but I digress. It's not super sustainable to say they're not going to turn the ball over. So there will be some things coming back to earth, but I go back to kind of what you said on Sunday, Derek, after the game, where it felt like we watched the Colts like B- game on Sunday. Like it wasn't this like picture perfect game out there. Like their offense had some miscues. They punted the ball for the first time this year. They missed a field goal. They had a couple of drops. They had a couple run stuffs until Jonathan Taylor's second half explosion. And even then, they still put up points. And I think that's more of the testament to a good offense where you're not going to come out and just pitch perfect games every single Sunday. Can you still manage to get points on the board when everything's not going right, when you do have drops, when you do have penalties, when you do have punts out there? Can you still get points on the board? And they still did in that week 3 game. So there's obviously going to be some bigger tests upcoming for them, and they're going to have to deal with the injury bug more so going forward as well. But yeah, I think it is sustainable to a degree. I think this can be a top 5, top 10 offense if they stay healthy. There's nothing really saying that they can't be that this year. They're on fire in every single metric, and the reason why we have all those metrics is to tell us how legit this is. And as of right now, I'd say it's pretty legit.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think all of the things that we've seen the Colts offense be good at, which is just about everything to this point, but some of the most important things are indicators of good teams overall. Offensive line is playing lights out, of course, and that includes there was 3 spots there where you could mark them as questionable new starters in Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonzalez, and then Braden Smith making his return to the field. All 3 of them have been really, really solid, especially Matt Gonzalez has been playing, especially mentally, beyond what we really saw. Zach compared his vision to that of Quentin Nelson recently. Like the guy's been doing really well. And then especially in pass pro, which that was the thing where like, that's going to have to wait and catch up a little bit. But the offensive line, obviously, if you've got a good offensive line, you always stand a chance of being able to accomplish whatever you really want to try and do. But Daniel Jones, even when he is pressured, he's only been sacked, twice this year. We're seeing him slip out of coverage. That third down against the Titans where he slipped through 2 or 3 different pass rushers and then picked up a 17-yard gain, that was a brilliant play. His ability to just kind of stop on a dime and change direction and cut up field was really, really good. The league's leading rusher in Jonathan Taylor, and then a catalog of pass catchers that provides just about anything you want. Michael Pittman is kind of a do-it-all type guy. Alec Pierce, one of the best deep threats in the entire league. Josh Downs, who led the team in receptions last year, but is kind of playing like third fiddle at this point, waiting to break out a little bit. And then, of course, Tyler Warren, that's being used in a multitude of ways, and they all look brilliant. So right now, there's really not an easy place to point to at this offense and say, this is the weak spot. This is what you really got to look at. So all those things considered, again, injuries notwithstanding, I do think they maintain this being a top 10 offense throughout the season. There would just have to be some drastic fall from earth from someone for that to happen. And, Daniel Jones, it looks like that's a very good marriage with Shane Steichen. They're speaking the same language. They're kind of connected at the brain right now. So, yeah, it's hard for me to imagine them just randomly falling off a cliff. I think they should be able to sustain some degree of success offensively throughout the year.
Well, Jake, you mentioned one of the things that would keep an offense from sustainability, and that was injuries. Health is a huge one, and we'll have to see what's up with Alec Pierce going through concussion protocol. I was, I guess, surprised to learn that this isn't the first time he's had a concussion. He's had this before, and so the 100 years ago when I played, if you got a concussion, it's like get your ass back in the game. But now they treat it a lot more seriously, and the one thing you hope for is just good health. When you're playing, you don't think about it. But when you get up into early age, you want to be able to go in the backyard and toss a ball around with your kids, or chase the dog, or do some other kind of physical activity. So the last thing you want to do is leave the game with your brain scrambled. So it's something that they pay attention to. The second thing that would make an offense not be sustainable is turnovers. The Colts haven't experienced a turnover yet, and so unless they have turnovers and injuries, they show signs of being a sustainable offense because there's no one person that people can really look to stop. It's not like a dynamic receiver or this, running back like a Derrick Henry. They spread the ball around so well that you can't really double anybody. And as long as Daniel Jones can be quick with his decision making, and as long as he gets protection, Zach, you talked about the offensive line, and that is the key. If the offensive line can protect and offensive line can run block, then there's no reason why this offense can't be sustainable.
And Zach, I wanted to go back to, the offensive line, and we were having a conversation about the wide receivers. It may have been when we were doing the position preview. And you had said, yeah, while they don't have any game breakers, they have guys that can be situational game breakers. And that kind of stuck with me. Like in certain areas, they can really make a difference. And to me, and I guess another way of saying this is kind of some of its parts. Like when you go along the offensive line, some of the shortcomings of some of the players are made up by strengths of some of the others. It almost feels like the pieces fit really well together. It's not like Bordellini or Gonzalez or some of these other guys are finished products, because they're very much not. But it just feels like the strengths and weaknesses align in a way that just makes it a great cohesive unit.
Yeah, for sure. I actually think one of the greatest developments for the Colts this year has been Matt Gonzalez's emergence as a pass blocker, because that was a question we had in the preseason, right? Was this guy making his first ever starts in the NFL at guard? This is a guy who never played guard his whole life. Coming into this year, he had never been a guard, always been a tackle. Going back to high school, he played a total of 30 career snaps at guard from counting college and counting the pros before this year. So it was a big adjustment for him. And him emerging as this really good pass blocker kind of did solidify a lot of guys in terms of, where their weak points could be and just kind of hiding a lot of things. Because when you look at Tanner Bordellini, he's got to be better as a pass blocker, but we know we're getting elite run blocking production out of him. Braden Smith, maybe not always the best pass blocker, but a very good run blocker, and he can at least get in front of guys in the passing game. So when you add just a pillar in between them who's a really good pass blocker, it makes those two guys who are maybe your two weakest pass blockers much better. And then you have on the other side Quentin Nelson, who I think is one of the smartest football players I've ever covered in my entire life. Just a guy who recognizes blitzes and recognizes stunts faster than anybody else. It helps cover up the weaknesses of those guys. So you have two pillars in pass protection in Nelson and Gonzalez, who Gonzalez is not this guy that opposing defensive lines can attack because he's winning on an island constantly. He is not getting beat on an island. And then if you want to stunt to his side, he's picking those things up quickly. So it makes defenses have to we're going to isolate a guy on the center. That's much harder to do than isolate a guy on a guard in pass protection. So yeah, I think these guys have very much just kind of complement each other in a big way. We're seeing a diversity of attack in the passing game, diversity of attack in the running game. And then with this offensive line playing at a high level and just kind of picking up each other's slack, we're seeing the pass protection hold up as well. So yeah, I mean, look, sustainability is always a tough conversation because yes, they're not going to sustain the number one offense in football. There are just too many factors at play here. And when injuries pile up, when the turnovers start coming, it will be difficult to hold on to the same type of success. But also, I don't see why anybody would say they're going to fall outside the top 10 or it's like the Saints of last year, stuff like that. There are so many things about this offense that project well. Offensive line playing well, superstar running back, one of the best young tight ends in football, diversity of attack in the wide receiver room, and a veteran quarterback who just understands his role in the offense. There's really no reason to think this is going to regress because all these guys are clicking. And they also have one of the better play callers in football who helped the Eagles go to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. So yeah, I think this is going to last for this Colts offense for a good chunk of this season.
With all those metrics and analytics, the one thing this offense does is score. And you can't beat a team if you can't score more than this offense. And so, yeah, scoring to me is a mindset because you can pile up a bunch of yards and never get in the end zone. There's what do you call lies, damn lies, and statistics. And the fact is, they've got a great statistic in that they're averaging over 400 yards a game, but the key stat to me is they score. And as long as you can continue to score, you put the pressure back on the opposing offense because they're going to have to match you.
Yeah, if you're scoring 34 points a game in the NFL, you're good. You're golden. You're going to be in the playoffs for sure with 34 points a game. So Yeah, I think they're just doing a lot of things right now. And in a modern NFL where it's tough to score points, it's tough to get yards. The average yardage per game in the NFL right now is what, like 320 yards, I think is what someone said. It's like the lowest in years. The Colts are averaging 430 right now, or 420 per game. So just keep doing what you're doing, and they'll be a top tier offense.
Now, one thing I appreciate about the Colts, what they've been doing, and it just happens to have clicked now that they've got kind of a heady quarterback in place and their offensive line coach appears to be the real deal, is they've always kind of struggled to have an identity on offense, or they haven't been able to stick to the run the damn ball identity the whole time because of all these moving parts, and it just hasn't always worked out. But the offensive linemen they have continued to get really since Quentin Nelson, like it started with Ryan Kelly, but really poured in when they got Quentin Nelson and Braden Smith. It's all these guys that are wired the same. They're athletic, but they're strong as bears as well. Like they get the same exact type of guy, but also they all have the same mental makeup that meshes really well. They won't go get an offensive lineman if they don't think that he will fit right into the mold with that group. But it has to be like a character thing as well. They won't just go get anybody. By and large, the offensive linemen they've gone and brought in here have worked very well. Even like, got guys from like waivers or late round picks that they've had to develop. It's worked pretty well. Like Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonzalez were 3rd and 4th rounders. Like that's not a guarantee that they hit by any means. They're mid-round picks, but they have. Their plan for them was to come in and replace. I think they probably thought it might have been Braden Smith at this point, but to come in and fill 2 starting roles, which they've now done, and they look really good in doing it. And then as a result of Daniel Jones being able to pull all the strings he has, well, now they have Jonathan Taylor, who they know can be a workhorse, and they've gotten back to forming their identity of what they know works on offense. So I do appreciate them sticking to the plan there and knowing the right type of guy and continuing to do it and being patient with it while the correct pieces kind of fall back into place around them.
Yeah, and stuck their neck out a little bit, right? I mean, they didn't bring back Fries, and they took some criticism for that. And, say what you want about Ryan Kelly. Dude was a pillar of the locker room and everything else, and they let him walk on out. And so they opened themselves up if this didn't work out. And so far, it is absolutely working out for them. So we'll see if they can kind of keep that up. When we come back, what are we overreacting to, but also where are we perhaps underreacting? In fact, I've got a much maligned Colt who I think we're underreacting how good he's been so far this season. That's next when the Colts Squad Show returns. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and you get the boost when you need it. It's hump day, and a lot of times during the middle of the day, and then during the middle of the week, just in general, I'm just dragging. That's why I reach for my great 5 Hour Energy to give me the boost that I need to get through the rest of my Wednesday. The best part about it is that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing out later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And we're back on the Colts Squad Show alongside Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts and former NFLer and Notre Dame legendary running back Alan Pinkett. I'm Derek Schultz. I just noticed, guys, I don't know if anybody else notices this in like the YouTube chat. So I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes here at Locked On. We have these little things, these little silhouette deals that go, silhouette's not the right word, whatever they are, the transitions. There are 3 seconds. Jake, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. So in 3 seconds, I have to get everybody back up on the stage here because I pull everybody off so I can do the commercial, the whole deal, and get everybody back on. Every time I put everybody back on, it's a completely different order. So we're just going like hodgepodge. Like normally speaking, it's Zach up in the right corner, and then Jake, and then Alan, and now it's just I just want people to know that I'm just throwing everybody up there on stage. So what you see is kind of what you get. Let's do overreactions and underreactions. And I mentioned this, and this is actually a positive. And Zach, I'm glad that you touched on it too. I think this guy was criticized last year. It's the classic case of asking somebody to be something that they're not. And the Colts last year, really, I mean, they asked every guy in that room to be something that they weren't, and that's a starting tight end, right? But Mo Cox, you're reminded of the fact that, look, this guy's not a TE1, right? He was never supposed to be a TE1. He is never going to be a TE1. He's a pretty darn good backup tight end, though. And you did a film session on him recently, and so I kind of stole this from you as well, but it was something that I was also noticing. By the way, Sunday was his 111th NFL game, which is just insane to me that he's been around that long. Wow. But how about Mo and what he's provided in this offense as well? You know, we spent so much time on Warren and Taylor and the guys that are really obvious, but I think some of the reserves have really shown out so far this year, too, in this 3-0 start.
Yeah, when we talk about the sum of their parts offense, it's also the guys like Mo Cox just doing the dirty work. You know, he's not going to show up in the stat sheet because he's just a blocking tight end, just a blocking tight end. You know, that's not sexy. It's not for fantasy football. You're not picking him up on waivers or anything like that. But he's such a vital part of what this offense is doing. They are in 12 personnel 25% of the time. They're in 13 personnel 13% of the time. So 38% of the plays, at least, he is going to be on the field. And his goal when he gets on the field, if you really watch the film, is he's like the sixth offensive lineman in a lot of these situations, because you don't want Tyler Warren just tethered to blocking a defensive tackle or blocking a defensive end out of 5-tech or anything like that. Like, he is just sitting back he is sitting in there as that extra offensive lineman. And he's being asked to do very difficult things so Tyler Warren can be more on the move, be more mobile out there as a pass catcher, as a blocker. You know, you want Warren out in space, but you need a guy that can free him up to do that. And that's what Mo Cox has been this year. So, yeah, he was the guy I picked prior to the season to be our Ashton Doolin Award on this show, because he's just the guy who does the dirty work, you know, and this is why you keep him, why you bring him back when you get a guy like Tyler Warren, because you need someone to protect him in a lot of ways. Without Mo Cox, you cannot free Tyler Warren to be Tyler Warren. So, and essentially, he has been such a vital part of Warren's breakout this season because he lets him get out there. So, yeah, Mo Cox it's a fascinating prospect, fascinating player to get this far. Going back in my day watching college basketball, one of my favorite all-time college basketball players. I always tell this story of I was a big VCU fan as a kid, and Mo Cox was my favorite basketball player. So when the Colts signed him, I got pumped about it. Now he's over 100 games in the NFL. He's earned it, man. He's earned it. He's certainly earned everything, and I'm excited to see him kind of getting this resurgence this year. And that's why I kind of highlight him on my YouTube channel, because he's just done a lot of the dirty work that doesn't really get recognized by most people out there.
Yeah, he's a true success story for the Colts, and especially Chris Ballard. I think that was Ballard's first move when he got hired on as GM. But no, I mean, the fact that he's played over 100 games, which I didn't even consider, that's just mind-blowing considering where he came from to where he is now. And yeah, like him a whole lot better as the tight end 2, where, you know, it's not his fault he's asked to play out of, I don't want to say out of position, but he was essentially given a contract to replace Jack Doyle, and that never came to fruition. So the money he was getting and just the role he was put in, the Colts lost tight end production for 4 years, basically. You know what I mean? So Mo is very, very good at what he is supposed to be good at. And then he occasionally will get that, in the first 2 weeks of the year, he had the throws to the left side where he picked up big first downs, I think down in the red zone. That's what he's good for. Getting him a big pass play for 15, 20 yards every couple weeks. He's able to convert that. And even last year, despite him not ever being a gaudy pass catching tight end, if they needed a play from a tight end in the clutch on 4th down or a critical 3rd down, whatever, it was him stepping up to make it, whether it was Flacco at quarterback or Anthony Richardson. I think I remember vividly against the Patriots in that comeback, Mo converted a 4th down for them on that final drive from Richardson. So no, definitely big appreciators of Mo here on this show. Now, I know I did say I think it was redundant for them to have both him and Drew Ogletree so that I could see more Will Mallory, which I still kind of feel like, but you know, Mo is killing it. I got some appreciation for Mo out there.
Well, I appreciate all the love you're giving to Mo Cox, but I had two other people in mind to talk about an
Okay.
overreaction and underreaction. The overreaction to me, because I watch a lot of the national shows, the overreaction is the surprise that Daniel Jones is doing so well. Like they expected him to be a flop, but they forgot he was a first round pick. Let's face it, I guess most first round picked quarterbacks don't have success. Very few. I don't know the exact numbers. I mean, you guys could look it up, but I'm not surprised that he's having success because he finally got in a system that benefits his skill set. And he's got a much better supporting cast. So the overreaction, I think, is wrong because dude can play. That's why he got drafted in the first round. So why is everyone so surprised? But the underreaction is why aren't we going out and screaming at the top of our lungs what Jonathan Taylor is doing? I just
Yeah.
realized that he got Offensive Player of the Week in the AFC once again. That's back to
Twice.
back weeks.
Yeah.
He is the first Colt to ever receive back-to-back player of the week status. You think about all the great players the Colts have had. You're going to tell me Peyton Manning couldn't win that award twice, in back-to-back weeks, or Andrew Luck or Edge, that he couldn't get it, back-to-back weeks. But Jonathan Taylor and what 2,600-yard games. This is sometimes I am showing my allegiance to the running back position. So
That's okay.
forgive me, but why isn't this guy being talked about more for the work that he's doing? So I think we're underreacting to how valuable. Although I think one of us did pick him as the MVP for this team. In order for this team to be able to be successful, it was going to be the play of Jonathan Taylor. But I just when I saw that stat that he was the first Colt ever to win Player of the Week in back-to-back weeks, I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that gets you into the Hall of Fame, but he's doing it quietly with not a lot of fanfare. There are other backs that may be more dynamic, but in terms of getting the job done and piling up the yards, I mean, nobody's doing it better right now than Jonathan Taylor, who is leading the league in rushing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you even said it there that there might be other guys more dynamic, but I don't think there have been this season. Like, because we can say this in the past with Jonathan Taylor, right? Where he's more of just a runner. He doesn't bring you the whole package at running back. He's not a pass blocker. He's not a pass catcher. But this year he's catching passes. He's blocking his butt off in pass protection. Like I said this, I think after his week 2 game, that this is the best version of Jonathan Taylor we've ever seen with the Colts. And that even butts up against his 2021 season, which was the best season we've ever seen from a running back with the Colts because of how dynamic he was and just how great he was that year. But this year, he just looks like a 100% complete running back, completely bought into everything. And I think the most important thing with him too is you never see his confidence level drop throughout the game. He has had 2 first halves already this year where he's had under 3.5 yards per carry, but he's finished both those games with over 100 yards rushing. And those are the 2 weeks we're talking about here, the Broncos game and the Titans game, where he's under 3.5 yards per carry in the first half and goes off for over 100 for the game. He's just playing some great football. And I agree, Alan. I think we do need to be celebrating this more because Saquon Barkley's season was so massive last year, got all the love. Derrick Henry's inability to age gets all this love in national fanfare, but I think Jonathan Taylor just emerging as another level here. And I know he's not old, he's 26, but that's old for running back, for how many carries, he got in college too. He got like 700 carries in college over 3 seasons. Like he got a lot of carries in college. And for him to be looking like this at 26 after the injuries he's had in recent seasons too, yeah, he has been fantastic. I do want the Colts to bring down the carries a little bit just because you want to preserve him here, but gosh, he has been fantastic this year at every single facet.
I could tell you, people in the NFL put him in that upper echelon. Like, I haven't checked in since Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, but when it was Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Saquon, he firmly, in the eyes of NFL people, was considered in that top group. I have no idea what it is, even locally sometimes, just like as a writer, for example, anytime I would write something about Jonathan, it's been a little different this year, but like in the past, anytime I would write something about him, it just never did well. Nationally, people never talked about him. And I'm like, what are we like? He did have a couple down years when he was dealing with ankle injuries and everything, but 2021 was special. And then he has shown us since then that he is still that guy. I mean, he finished the back half of last year with a huge bang, finished with gobs of numbers and finished as a top 5 running back last year. He's leading the league this year. Like, he is still that dude. And there were points last year where I was like, he's maybe not as explosive as he used to be. Well, he is now. Like, something changed. Like, the dude is back and he is more complete than ever.
Well, I just thought that he would be celebrated more nationally.
He should be.
I'm sure the people in Indianapolis appreciate what they have in him, but nationally, he doesn't get a lot of love. And I feel like he's like Bronco Nagurski back there running the football and not OJ Simpson. And so it's just in terms of flash and style, that type of thing, he's more workmanlike, but he still has the ability to make moves on people. And I love the fact that he's a very determined runner, especially around the goal line. He knows how to smell that goal line. He knows how not to be denied. And I like his overall game. And so from, looking at all the attributes it takes to be a great running back, I just don't understand why people don't feature him more about the things you need to do to be a quality back in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Derek, I know you got to move us along here, but one more thing I want to throw out here is that I think we're underrating, and it just ties in with everything we've talked about so far. We're underrating how much the buy-in has been on offense, I think, from this entire team. If you look at why the Colts have been successful in offense, it's not only just the 11 starters. It's the 12th guy, the 13th guy, the 14th guy, the 15th guy. Ashton Doolin's coming in for 8 plays a game just to run block as a wide receiver. He's running insert blocks on defensive tackles and linebackers, but he's completely bought in. Again, Mo Alley-Cox, Drew Ogletree getting out there for a dozen snaps maybe at best in a game just to block. And these guys are doing it at a high level. And this is why this is another one of the reasons why the Colts are running the ball so well. This is why they're throwing the ball so well out of 12 and 13 personnel. You are seeing the full buy-in from every player, the wide receiver room in particular. Alan, what do we know about wide receivers? They're all divas. They all want the ball 100 times a game, right? But you're seeing that these guys don't care. They're fine sharing because they know that they're going to get their opportunities each game to make their plays. Michael Pittman Jr. has, one catch the whole first half this past game, goes out there and dominates the second half and carries the Colts to victory. These guys don't care if they're getting the ball. They just care about winning these games. So you're seeing the buy-in from every single person on offense, and that's a huge reason why they're winning games. I think we're underrating that, honestly, because I think that they have this next man up mentality. I think they have this workman-type mentality on offense, and it's a big part of why they're being so successful this year.
Yeah, I think the Colts have tried to sell those things in past years, and it hasn't really been that way. And now they don't have to sell it because you can see it. And that comes with success and all of that. And again, just kind of a closing thought on Taylor. Alan, the Colts are relevant now. I think that's why he's being talked about again. The point guard at Duke gets talked about more than the point guard at Boston College. But sometimes, Boston College is playing pretty well. Then you start talking about it again. I think so much of the Taylor conversation, the narratives around him, have been because the Colts have been off the radar. They haven't been playing in games that have mattered the last couple of years, and now people are paying attention because of this 3-0 start. Let's talk about injury report. We're going to do that when we come back. Definitely raise some eyebrows, but there's one name on that list that stands above the rest. We'll talk about what that player's departure means for the Colts moving forward next when the Squad Show returns. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 that if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now that we're 3 weeks into the NFL season, I'm starting to feel like I know these teams a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable placing wagers. Might be buying into some these Colts getting 3.5 points out there in LA, or thinking the Bills might be worth their hefty line given how putrid the Saints have been so far. Regardless, the best part of FanDuel is it lets me customize my betting experience. I look at the entire week slate, and I just kind of pick and choose what I want to do whenever I'm feeling it, wherever I'm feeling it. I just open up the app. It's very easy to use, and I place my wager, bada bing, bada boom, and done. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. And we're back on the Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for joining us on this Hump Day Wednesday edition alongside former NFLer Alan Pinkett and the Locked On Colts duo of Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks. I'm Derek Schultz. Let's talk injury report, guys. Not great. The injury report is rarely great, right? But especially in the Colts case, some key names on there. But, obviously the one that I think stands out above the rest, Kenny Moore is going to miss some time. What the Colts are calling now more of an Achilles injury, which definitely raises some red flags, Jake. Thinning out an already thin cornerback room, but I think it actually does Kenny Moore a disservice to just talk about his actual play on the field, because we all know how much he means to that locker room and just his presence in general. Just not even the fact that he's an impact player. We just saw it last week with that pick six right off the bat, but just his presence in that locker room and not having him due to injury, it's tough to spin that in a positive for the Colts.
No, it really is. And the fact that, externally, they probably have a little more of an idea what they want to do internally, but externally, they're not putting a timeline on it. Shane Steichen said IR is not an option right now. But when you're talking about going from a calf to where you look into it more and it's more of an Achilles around Indy, we know what that means. We know how detrimental that can be when a star player goes down in a championship game. But no, Zach and I talked about this earlier. Kenny Moore, the man, Kenny Moore, the player, Kenny Moore, the teammate, deserves to see this season through with his health. And I can't make decisions for them, obviously, but I don't really think we see a lot of times where guys are just day-to-day, small week on an Achilles. It may be a good idea to put him on short-term IR until the thing is fully healthy, and there's no concern about risking an Achilles tear or anything like that, because you don't want that for Kenny. I think that would be gutting for the defense in general and the team, because he has been one of the biggest leaders. He's not always super outspoken, but what he can bring to the defense just as an example to his teammates and his play on the field, he is one of the most special, cerebral players I've watched in my time covering the Colts. I can't think, other than Shaquille Leonard, I cannot think of another defensive player who always seemed to be playing chess while the offense was playing checkers. His ability to bait quarterbacks into mistakes, perfect example with Cam Ward. If you go back and you watch him, that entire play leading up to it, he knows what he's doing the entire time. He's setting off a little bit, letting Ward think there's some time there and some space to throw. Boom, closes. We've seen him do that a million times against even better quarterbacks. His ability as a blitzer, he's only 5'9", but he tackles like he's 6'2". Kenny Moore is just immaculate for this defense. And if he's going to miss a little bit of time, I think the Colts did probably the next best thing they can do, and that's sign Mike Hilton to the practice squad. Now they're going to evaluate him through this week and see if he's ready to play. We talked to him today, and he's like, hell yeah, I could play. I can play right now as much as they want to, which is great. We'll see. But, in the short term, they've got Mekhi Blackman that can play inside and out as well. But, if Kenny has to miss any time beyond a couple weeks, I think Mike Hilton is a great stand-in. Stylistically, they are pretty similar, other than I think Kenny probably brings you a little bit more from the playmaking and ball skills department, but Mike Hilton is a tough nickel corner who can get his nose dirty and tackle as well. He, even beyond Kenny, has been one of the most successful blitzing defensive backs in the NFL, even going back to when he was with the Steelers. So if you're going to take a step down from Kenny for anyone, they're really getting the next best thing in Mike Hilton. And I can't recall how shockingly experienced a defensive secondary than this one could have been. They have Mooney Ward. They have obviously Xavier Howard, Mike Hilton, Kenny Moore. Cam Bynum's in his second contract. This secondary is riddled with veterans who are able to win right now and help each other out and help get some of these younger guys up to speed as well.
Yeah, and not to play devil's advocate here, but there's a reason why Mike Hilton was available at this point in the season.
Of course,
So I don't want to.
30+ years old, yeah.
Right, and he certainly lost a step from what he was in his prime. So I think anyone expecting him to come in here just be the Mike Hilton from the Bengals, like, there's a reason why we're in week 4 and the Colts are able to grab him and he's on the practice squad right now. But I do think the Colts have a good amount of organizational depth in terms of Mekhi Blackman could go out there and play some slot this week. Chris Lamons is on their practice squad still as well, and he's been there, done that with his Colts team. And then obviously once Hilton gets up to speed, he knows this system pretty well. So I don't want to say like you can survive this injury because Kenny Moore, I mean, just looking at this season, the Colts have 6 turnovers forced on defense or 5 turnovers forced on defense. He's forced 2 of them. He's got the fumble against Tua in week 1, and he got the interception for a touchdown this past week. So he's been a massive part of what the Colts have done on defense, not only this year, but throughout his entire career. So it's almost impossible to replace guys like that. But at least organizationally, they do have some guys who can step in and at least hold down the fort until he's back, whenever that is going to be. I don't want to speculate too much on the injury right now, but whatever this is going to be, the Colts got to just be able to hold it down until he gets back. That's, Allen always says next man up mentality. That's what all these guys are ready for. This is what these guys are getting paid the big bucks for, to come in here and hold it down until Kenny comes back. So yeah, it's very unfortunate that he's going to be out for a little bit, but they have the bodies and guys who are ready to make an impact. And I think that they're going to perform well in this scheme.
Well, the fact that they didn't put him on IR, makes me think that the injury is not as serious as they think it could be. But anytime you mess with that Achilles, that's the scary one to me. And the people I've seen go down with an Achilles, I mean, you're talking about an 18-month recovery, just about sometimes. So he's not on IR, so maybe it's not as bad. But Zach, you're right. You do have to have that next man in mentality, and the locker room has to adapt it, and not just in that defensive backfield. The guys on the defensive line have to say, okay, Kenny's not going to be here. I need to rush a little bit better. I need to put more pressure on this quarterback. The linebackers may say, well, Kenny's not here. I might need to force a fumble. Let me work on punching a ball out. So everybody has to try and pick up the slack when one of your key cogs goes out. And even from a leadership perspective, when you talk about Kenny being a leader in that locker room, one of the more vocal players, which doesn't surprise me. The DBs are the smallest dudes on the team and the loudest ones on the team. But anyway, that leadership has to be replaced too. So somebody's got to step up in a situation like that. You never want to see a player go down, but that next man mentality, you have to be serious and adopt that in order to win, because the bottom line is getting the W.
Alec Pierce as well in that injury report. Alan, you had mentioned the fact that he has a concussion. And look, I get the receiver room is probably one area where you say, yeah, not as big of a deal. But part of me kind of, Jake, I think the general feeling was when Daniel Jones won this job, like, okay, well, Alec Pierce, sorry, you're screwed, buddy. You're not going to get your yellow balls anymore. You're not going to get any of that. But you watch these first 3 games, and last week against Tennessee, some of those really key downs and key situations, if there were such thing as a key when the Colts are sitting on a 2-score lead, it was Pierce was the guy that he was targeting. And I just think maybe we're underrating. I think we just underrate Alec Pierce in general in this town, but I think maybe we're underrating that as an impact for losing him for a game or two. I mean, certainly ideally you would rather have him out there than not, even if you feel confident that AD Mitchell or somebody else can kind of pick up the slack.
Yeah, and he has been just as productive as last year, but they're going to him more early and often than they were last year. I mean, it seemed like last year they were only going to him in the 3rd, 4th quarter when they were down and they needed to spark a big play. But he's been showing up and making big plays, not necessarily short, but some intermediate stuff and definitely the long stuff. So he's been as invaluable as ever, but it's not just his ability to beat anyone downfield, which is obviously very invaluable, but he has made a niche for himself as one of the best blocking receivers in the game as well. Zach talked all about it, but you can see Michael Pittman Jr. doing it as well. You watch these long runs or these catches and runs, look at the guys around them. You're almost always going to see Pittman and or Alec Pierce running alongside boxing a defender out of the way and buying the ball carrier some extra time. So this is a room, yes, where you could probably absorb that a little bit because they're pretty deep at receiver. But at the same time, if you're talking next man up, well, it's A.D. Mitchell's time now. We got to see, Zach mentioned this earlier on our show. He's probably not going to get a ton of opportunities for like big, I can't think of the word right now, but, a big dress rehearsal essentially for a bigger role down the road than this one. If Alec Pierce is going to be out this entire game, well, they're going to need Mitchell to step up and maybe handle 6 or so targets in this one. Personally, I think he looks a lot more comfortable than he did last year. So I'm hoping for kind of a big return on investment in this game. But yeah, it's I'm definitely not as comfortable with Mitchell out there as I am when Pierce is out there, just because the multitude of ways he affects the game, and he is on the field almost the whole time too.
Yeah, I'll just say my point real quick here is that Pierce's biggest impact comes when the ball's not going his way. And that's his biggest impact, clearing out things for the rest of the offense, being a threat vertically down the field, being a blocker. He just hits his landmarks so well as well. Like, he is so important for the things that don't get put in the stat sheet, where A.D. Mitchell is more so important for what does go in the stat sheet, where Mitchell is just a guy who you can put him on an island, he'll beat man coverage, and he'll get open. So I think we could see a week this week where Mitchell is more productive than Pierce has been in any game to start this season, but maybe his production won't be as valuable to like a coaching staff, for instance. So I think Mitchell's going to step in and be like a good receiver this week, and he's going to catch a lot of passes, but we'll see exactly the impact it has on the offense. Will be my big selling point this week. But yeah, I think Mitchell will be fine stepping in there. I think that the Colts are going to do a lot of max protect stuff and isolate him on these smaller corners and let him go to work. But I'm really curious to see what lengths he's taken as a guy that, has to do the dirty work in terms of blocking and then just clearing vertical. And hey, you're going to run 30 yards on this play, but you're not getting the ball because we're running it. But just run that corner out of here. How does he look on those situations will be a big telling point for me.
Well, we're assuming that he is not going to play, and you guys probably know the concussion protocol better than me, but there are still a few more tests he has to go through, and I guess the decision won't be made until Saturday night or even Sunday morning, whether he's able to pass through concussion protocol. But, I'll try to be quick with this. You know how sometimes when a pitcher is having such a great game and that umpire comes out and says, "Let me check your pockets. Do you have some sandpaper in your pocket or anything?" Well, I think the refs should check to see if Alec Pierce has crazy glue on his hands, because the catches that he makes, just he's got ultimate concentration. I guess I can't remember, it was either the Dolphins. No, it was the Broncos game where dude was mugging him and hit him, and his concentration it just didn't phase him. He was able to go up and grab the ball with his hands, and that play where he got the concussion, that was a catch. I don't care what anybody says, that was a catch. And that's with his head banging on the ground. But I'm just so impressed by, he goes up. It's like a Labrador retriever. There's nothing more important in the world than when you throw a ball at them, that they get that ball. And that's the way that Alex Pierce reacts when the ball's in the air.
I like that. He's like a Labrador retriever. Heck yeah. He goes and gets it, man. He does every time. And he's completely unafraid to go and do it. And I think there's something to that earns the respect of teammates. We come back for a final time. We'll take our first look at the Rams and share a unique link between the two franchises that is not shared by any other. And no, I'm not talking about Dickerson and Falk. We're going to wrap that up with the show next. Back for a final time here, Locked On Colts Squad Show, Wednesday edition. Thanks so much for joining us alongside the Locked On Colts duo of Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks and former NFLer Alan Pinkett. I'm Derek Schultz. I'm going to put you guys on the spot here. I love dorking out about stuff like this. So the Colts and Rams have an historical link that I would guess no other pro franchise, maybe there's a baseball time where this has happened, just because baseball's been around for like 200 years. I would guess, though, of the three major sports, no other franchises have this kind of link. Do you guys know what it is?
Pins and needles here.
Is it
Got
playing in
me.
like different cities, but with this kept the same name? Is it something like that? I'm
Well,
guessing.
that's actually a good guess, but no. I'll put it this way: the Irsay family, the first team that the Irsay family owned was not the Colts.
Oh, really?
It was the Rams.
Oh,
So
okay.
Bob Irsay
Okay.
purchased the Rams and then traded them to Carol Rosenblum.
That
He
sounds
was
right.
looking to move to LA. He was upset with Baltimore, wanted a new stadium, the whole deal, wanted to get out, wanted to go to LA, traded with Bob Irsay. It was a team swap, tax-free, nothing else. I'm trading you this team for that team. I had heard once that it was done over a poker game, which wouldn't surprise me if it was Bob Irsay, right?
Yeah, I would say
There's no way
this
Bob
is one
Irsay
of the
that was
least.
involved.
This is one of the least surprising Robert Irsay things I've heard. So yeah,
But kind of a
Shout
cool
out to
tie-in.
Rambo in the comments there. He guessed it right.
Oh, did he get it
before
right?
said
Okay,
it.
great. Yeah.
Shout out to Rambo there.
Just a weird, like, historical quirk, but kind of funny. But also, some shared history. Like I just mentioned, I mean, two of the greatest running backs in NFL history. Eric Dickerson's trade here was one of the first big splash deals. He was the first real star in Indianapolis Colts history. And then Marshall Faulk went, of course, the opposite direction from Colts to Rams and had an unbelievable career there when they were in St. Louis. So I don't know. It's kind of funny to look back on those sort of things. Speaking of word quirks, the Colts have not beaten the Rams since the 2009 season, but they're 3-0 for the first time since the 2009 season, Zach. So all things come to an end here this year, right?
I'm about to say the 2009 season. That's the link, obviously. This year is everything. This year's Colts at the 2009 Colts. The 2009 Colts. So yeah, no, I think this is a great opportunity for this Colts team. Jake, do you have something that you were going to say there? A little quip, I'm sure.
yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, I was going to say, Derek, I'm disappointed because you did not put Ricky Prohl in this factor at all either.
Oh boy, Ricky! How could I forget the legendary Ricky Prohl?
The ghost of Ricky Prohl played for the Colts just briefly.
That's true. That's true. I will say though, when it comes to this upcoming game, all history nerds aside here with all this, I'm excited for the showdown because I think this Rams defense presents a new challenge for this Colts offense because each week has been a new challenge for this Colts offense to see if, going back to our first topic today, if this Colts offense is sustainable, obviously the biggest test this year has been that Broncos defense with that killer defensive line and then just playing man coverage on the back end. But the Colts have so many man beaters in their receiver room that they just shredded that vaunted Broncos defense that they had this year. The Rams, however, though, have a really good defensive line, but they'll play a lot of zone behind them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Daniel Jones operates in that way because I think he's going to get pressured at a similar rate as he did against the Denver Broncos. I mean, it's hard to contain Jared Verse and Turner up front and Byron Young on the other edge. These are guys who are emerging, really good young players. Braden Fisk was a guy that we were really high on in his draft year, Jake. It's a really good defensive line that gets after you, but they don't have the talent in the secondary that the Broncos have. So they're going to play zone. They're going to sit back in their zones, let their defensive line get after you. So what do we see from Jones? And it kind of gets me excited just seeing how this Colts offense adjusts to new challenges every single week. I think one thing that really will translate well is the Colts have just eviscerated linebackers all year. They have just done their plan of attack is we're going to go out of an 11 personnel for most of the game. But when our 12 personnel comes out here and we see how you match that, if you match it with a 7-man box, we're going to throw the ball on you out of 12 personnel. And you're good luck trying to cover Tyler Warren and A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce and all these guys. And then if you come out in a lighter box, we're going to run polars and power on you with Jonathan Taylor, and he's going to break off a 40-yard run. So I think they're going to try to abuse these linebackers as much as possible, but it's a little harder in zone coverage than it is in man. So it'll be a fun chess match between the Colts offense and the Rams defense this week, but a new challenge, and excited to see exactly how the Colts combat this really good defensive line.
Yeah, you mentioned all that zone coverage, and I'm like, all right, dial up Tyler for like 10 catches this week. They're going to probably need that, finding the soft spots in the zones. But I'm interested to see if the Colts can crack LA's run defense again. They've gotten back on track, and they're got a good start to their run defense this year. But it was just last year, like they were victimized, especially against the Eagles. Anytime Saquon went against them, it was trouble. My understanding is that their linebackers are fitting the run a little bit better this year because, by and large, it's a lot of the same guys in the front seven. But the linebackers are a little more productive in the run game this year. The Colts have had some success when they're patient but diligent with trying to establish the run, finally breaking it open in the second half. So I'm pretty interested in that. And then just like the Broncos, I think the Rams and Broncos are tied for the lead in sacks this year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, pretty similar challenge, but like Zach said, schematically a little bit different.
So I don't gamble, but I always check the line.
Okay.
The line, I guess, is -3.5 for the Rams, which doesn't surprise me. The Rams have, I guess, more marquee names, names of people that have had success that people are familiar with. I don't know if the Rams are a better team collectively or not, but the Rams with you say Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl winner, Devontae Adams. Although I'm wondering who's going to cover Devontae and who's going to cover Puka Nagoa. No, I'm going to butchered his name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Puka Nakua.
Yes, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I mean he's caught 29 passes already, and Devontae has only caught 13, but he's been targeted 29 times. And then I got to show some love to Kyron Williams, former Notre Dame guy, but I expect that team to be favored just because it's a little more, like I say, marquee names. The thing that concerns me though is as a player, when you go on the road, it's one thing to go to Tennessee, a team in their division, but you go to LA, you can sort of fall in that trap of like a mini vacation, and be distracted by the bright lights, and you go to that stadium. It's a relatively new stadium, and you can see the planes flying overneath, and you're close to the ocean. And sometimes that stuff can just get you off your game as a player, but you just have to, I think the concentration level has to be so much higher because of all the distractions. And what you have to say to yourself is, this is a business trip. And the most important thing is what's going to happen in between the lines on the field. And if I want to see the ocean, then in the off season, I'll go and on vacation and go see the ocean. I just want to see the four walls in the hotel and the stadium. So it's going to be a test for the Colts because the atmosphere is going to be different. And it's one of those that can make you sort of relax. The other thing is, these wins have sort of come kind of easy, or at least the win last week was kind of easy. So you never ever want to think that, oh, winning is easy, because you always want to stay disciplined about being fundamentally sound and reading your keys, and doing all the little things, detail things, because that's why you won the 3 games, and it's tougher on the road. So I'm hoping that the Colts will have that concentration level, because although this team sits at the Rams sit at -3.5, I think the Colts know that they can beat this team if they play their game and they execute the way they've been executing. Doesn't matter where they play, who they play.
Yeah, I'm not a big betting man either, but I think -3.5 for the home team typically means like a pick'em type game. I believe is the way that's how I was always taught by my dad, who does gamble. So I don't know too much about
3 points for the home field, right?
Right, right. So
the rule
they're
of
basically
thumb.
rating the two teams fairly even, which I think is fair. But to answer your schematic questions there, Alan, I can't speak on if these guys are going to get blinded by the lights out there or anything like that. But to speak schematically, I personally, what I would do is, look, Devontae Adams is a fantastic receiver in the twilight of his career, but still a fantastic receiver. But Puka Nacua is the engine that runs that offense. He is if I can hold him to 5 catches, I will do that in this game. So I'm putting Charvarius Ward on him all game long. I tell Charvarius Ward, you're going to cover him on the Rams sideline on that game too. Go follow him to the bench, follow him into the halftime locker room, wherever. You're going to be in his hip pocket all game long, because if you can just hold his catches down, I'm fine with Devontae Adams having 20 catches, because Puka Nacua is the engine of the offense. The other big factor, though, will be Kyron Williams in the running game. When you go against these zone running teams, it's so important for you to stay in your run fit, stay in your run lanes, and getting your head in there and trusting the guys around you. And we've seen this Colts offense or Colts defense be a little bit volatile in run defense this year. So I really want to see them stick to their P's and Q's, to get their head in there, be physical, and trust the guys around them to hold down this rushing attack. But I think that'll be a big key this weekend.
I do think they're going to try and limit the distractions. I don't know if intentionally or not, but they're going to get into LA Saturday afternoon, just get together for some meetings, check into the team hotel, meal, early bed check-in, and then off to the stadium in the morning.
It helps when Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen are your two like faces of the team,
Yes.
because I don't know if those guys have hobbies besides football. Like especially Daniel Jones. I like Shane Steichen. I know likes to fish and stuff and go to a cabin, but Daniel Jones, I don't know if he has any hobbies besides football. I think it's just football,
Right.
and that's probably it. So it helps when those other guys you're looking up to. It's like, oh, those guys are just watching football until they fall asleep at night. They don't care about anything else that's going on.
Yeah, I saw Daniel Jones on the Manning cast, and that was tough for Eli and Peyton, I think, because they're like, look, they're dorks, but they have a little more personality, and God bless him, Daniel Jones. We're real happy for the 3-0 start, but man, that was he's pretty dry. He's pretty.
He loves
boring.
ball. He loves ball. He loves golf as well. And you know what? I don't care. You could love whatever you want to love. You keep winning games for me. I don't care what you do, what your nickname is, how your personality is. Keep winning games.
That's
We'll
true.
see if the Colts and Danny Dimes can keep winning as they head off to LA. Thanks for joining us on the Colts Squad Show. Lock us in for your midweek show every Wednesday at 9 p.m. But don't forget, we are your place for live game recaps right here following each and every Colts game this season. So we'll be back with you on Sunday to recap the game in LA shortly after Colts and Rams goes final right here on the Locked On Network. Until then, keep it locked on Jake and Zach every day on Locked On Colts. Check out our other awesome team and squad shows for more NFL insight and the Locked On platform too. And be sure to follow at Locked On Colts on socials and check out our other great Locked On Colts content on YouTube and TikTok. And we'll see you next time right here on the Colts Squad Show.